Welcome to the JD Power AI and Insurance Podcast, where we explore how artificial intelligence is reshaping our industry. Everything from customer experience to the workforce of the future. I'm your host, Michael Vermillion. Today's guest is Colette Bartosik, financial services industry advisor at Salesforce and one of the most insightful voices at the intersection of technology, insurance, and human transformation. With deep experience across PwC, Aon, and the insurtech space, Colette helps leading insurers reimagine what's possible with AI, from operations to customer relationships. In this episode, we'll talk about how AI is changing who insurers hire, how they work, and what it takes to bring the workforce along for the ride. Whether you lead a team or shape strategy, this is a conversation you don't want to miss. Colette, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, and I agree. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. It couldn't be a hotter topic right now.
And thank you also for joining us in Chicago at the conference. I thought that went
Yeah.
really well. Yeah. So anyhow, well, good to talk to you again. Just to kind of level set for the audience that's listening, you've had an incredible journey from consulting and corporate leadership to InsurTech and now Salesforce. So can you share a bit about your role as the financial services industry advisor and the types of challenges that you help insurers tackle today?
Yeah, so our industry advisor team in financial services, we're a unique group because most of us, we've either spent significant portions of our career or all of our career working in the industry we specialize in. So for me, that's insurance, and we have like the best job because we get to partner closely with our customers to help them tackle what's their strategy for using the technology? What does the solution look like? How do you evolve? What impact do you drive? So we get to be close to I guess, the ground, the problems, the challenges. But then we have all the connectivity of Salesforce, and we can coordinate across those teams to make sure that we're looking at the products and the solutions through the right lens, through the right context, in the right challenge and focus area for our customers. So sometimes I think of it, it's almost like, when you have a translator, like they can speak both languages and you have someone there that can speak both languages to really ensure that you're getting that solid understanding and using the technology and the capabilities in the right way.
So at a high level, you've seen the industry from every angle.
Yes.
What excites you the most about how AI is transforming the way insurance companies work?
Yeah, this is one of those questions like, what excites you the most? I mean, it's like all of it. I feel like this is one of those questions I can't even answer concisely if I tried. There's even almost like a joke going on in my house. Like, if anyone brings up the topic of AI and how it's being used in schools or potential to change in society, everyone knows I'm going to like launch into a full-on debate. And it's like literally, it was like our dinner conversation around the table the other night with my young boys. But it's because I am so passionate about the opportunity in this space. And so if I could leave everyone listening with just kind of what ignited that passion for me, and a big part of it has been my time here at Salesforce and being able to see this organization stay ahead of the curve with the technology, with our customers, using the technology ourselves. We're always customer zero. The thing that really changed for me was when I started thinking about AI and reframed my mindset to think of it as digital labor. And I know that when I say that, it might even feel like those words, they're like headline quality words or marketing created words. But if you let yourself get past that and really think of what it means to use technology as digital labor, I remember when we were in Chicago the other month and we were at the conference, one of the tricky things about AI when you talk about it is it's become this like catch-all for
Hmm.
like all these different forms of capabilities, right? The predictive, the generative, and now we have the agentic. And what makes this complicated in our terms of how we think about it is like predictive, for example, has been a part of the Salesforce platform and our capabilities for over 10 years. So like this isn't new. So
Hmm.
there's so many elements of it that aren't new. We're used to seeing it in how insurers qualify leads, knowing what product to position next, knowing when to engage. We're seeing generative help us when to summarize a report, a customer engagement, an account. We're familiar with all these things. And so I say that because that wow factor gets lost
Hmm.
easily
Right.
when you bring up like what's AI and what's its impact, what it excites you. It's easy to gloss over it because we've been seeing these small changes and evolutions in how we work for quite a while. And so for me, that's why I'm saying the digital labor construct really changed how I started thinking about AI because then it became how is the technology used to complete work for you,
Hmm.
to complete a task for you? And that's the whole labor piece that's so interesting. And that's what's new about this wave that we're in now. So, can I get information faster through AI capabilities? Absolutely. Yes. Can my job get easier because of it? Absolutely. Yes. Do I need to complete all the work and all the tasks? No. And that's the change. Like, that's where this can go. And that's what's most exciting for me.
So let's just build on that idea for a moment, that digital labor construct, and just kind of set the context for how AI is reshaping workflows and roles and capabilities. So first, how are you seeing AI change the day-to-day work of insurance professionals, whether that's underwriting or claims or service or other aspects of operations?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think it, even before you start getting into the specific like functional roles, it goes back to how are you serving your customer and how do insurers serve their customer? And this is another thing where it's like we've been talking about customer centricity in the industry and being customer centric organizations for well over a decade, right? It's the topic that just keeps breathing life into all of our discussions and applications of technology. And it feels like it's never solved. And if you think about that, why is that? It's because in insurance, one, we view the customer from a policy view. Two, we might view the customer from our own individual team's view, the role we have in relation to the customer and how we serve. Or three, we look at it through the lens of like the claim, the event, the activity, when we have to deliver on that promise to the customer. And so I bring this context up in the context of how will it change our work, is because we're still tapping into how do we solve customer centricity. And so as you begin to solve customer centricity, AI's power is the ability to go and get and retrieve the information. Yes, so we can be more customer centric. But then it's also about how do we work more productively? And so now flip that and say, in spirit of serving the customer, and we want all of our people in our organizations really dedicated to doing that. Well, guess what? They spend half of their amount of time on administrative tasks or low value work. And more than half of employees will tell you when they're doing their jobs, it's incredibly difficult to get the information that they need to complete a task. And that's one, not what any employee wants. No one feels good working that way, doing a bunch of administration. And that's also not what organizations want. When you have all these people who deeply know your customers and your org and your products, you don't want them spending time on administration. So if you think about how the day to day work is changing, you could really boil it down. It doesn't matter what function you're in, the AI capabilities and especially agentic capabilities, our ability to now tap into enterprise knowledge of the customer and streamline and accelerate some of the work, some of those tedious tasks. Like I have shadowed a lot of call center agents, I've
Hmm.
shadowed agents in the field. And I mean, their screens, multiple applications open, sticky notes everywhere, notepads everywhere. The amount of labor, tedious work that is still very present is real. And so not only is can I capture faster something that's exciting, but like how do you capture not only faster, but stuff that's meaningful for your sales rep when they pick up next after a service interaction, right? Or that individual in claims, or even for your own interaction. How do I build on my last conversation and make it meaningful? So that's how it's starting to change. It's this journey of tapping into the information and then being able to use it more seamlessly through service of your ultimate calling, which is serving that customer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I think one of the questions that our listeners may have is around kind of measuring the impact of AI that for the initiatives that are in place today. You know, where's
Yeah.
it really moving the needle? So from your conversations with clients, where are they seeing the impact of AI being felt in a way that can really kind of be quantified? Is it efficiency? Is it decision making? Is it customer experience? Is it some combination of those things?
Yeah. I mean, my answer is definitely it's a combination of those things. And if I go back to my consulting days, it would have been the "it depends" scenario, like that common
Yeah,
phrase
yeah,
you
yeah.
hear.
I use that
You
a lot.
know, yeah, right. It depends. But no, in all seriousness, while I think it can move the needle on multiple facets of your organizational strategy and the business outcomes you need to drive, the hands down number one thing that everyone is talking about AI in the context of is productivity. So, because we're looking at it through the lens of productivity, efficiency gains are the number one focus. And last year, when we did a body of research and interviewed insurance executives across the industry and where they were making their AI investments, 62% were focused on creating those operational efficiencies and automating work. And, that doesn't surprise me. Right now in the industry, no matter what sector, everyone's focused on profitable growth for different reasons, but that profitability piece is really strong and central. So, because of that, wanting to tap into those efficiency gains so you can drive profitability, I think is a no-brainer. I also think, like, again, if you think about AI in the context of people, talent, digital labor, for the first time, you can engineer a completely different cost structure for your organization, which I find incredibly fascinating. And then the only caveat I would say is don't forget that, yes, while you can drive all these efficiency gains, there's something so powerful in AI with driving personalization because of how you use and access action your data. That personalization element, when you tap into that, and the research that was found at, Harvard Business Review with BCG did phenomenal research there that they published in the fall that shows that when you put personalization and AI at the center of your strategy, you outperform your peers. You lead with 10 additional percentage points in growth than those who are lagging behind. So there's this real competitive advantage for growth when you target it in that way as well. But at the end of the day, every organization has to apply it to those areas that they're still feeling pain and in spirit of the necessary outcomes for them to provide. So,
Yeah, so just to build on that a little bit, with new technologies like AI come a lot of unknowns, right? So are you
yes.
seeing any kind of like misconceptions, perhaps, in terms of AI's role related to the workforce?
Yes. This is another one of those topics where I could spend quite a good deal of time. But I would say even before you get to misconceptions, there's a whole nother challenge of just limited awareness.
Right.
And this is where, and I shared some of these stats when we were together at the conference. 77% of employees feel lost on how to use AI in their jobs. And there is this, like I said, there's so many different ways in which AI can be applied. There's so many types of different capabilities, some we're familiar with, some we're not. Some our organizations have, some we don't. We see things externally in our life that can be done, but then we can't do it in our work environments. There is a lot of confusion, and there's also a lot of question around safety, especially when we saw this technology come out in early days and we saw all the hallucinations. And so there's concerns about what is safe to use at work, what can be trusted to be used at work. I've had multiple executives in the last month tell me they don't know how to even get their teams thinking about what's possible. Because if you're trying to like push the envelope on thinking, everyone's instinct is to think about all the constraints, like all the risks associated with it. And also, organizations are used to really long, lengthy planning cycles. And now we have this technology moving incredibly fast. And so, what's happening is you see this like built up frustration happening where it's like, we know we should be moving fast, but we're not moving fast. We don't know how to think about it. Where do we find value within our orgs? Because like none of us are all the same. That's the feeling or sentiment. And all of that, that alone just speaks to like the education and awareness component. So let's say you get that down. So once people are at least educated and open to possibilities, then what else gets in the way?
Right.
Right. And then what I would say there is the next level of like resistance that I see are all the people who are like, oh, it's another hype cycle. Like, it's just like here, it's not here to stay. This too will come and go. Some things never change.
Yeah. What happened to blockchain?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And even the gosh, the word is slipping me, but do you remember for a while when everyone was like thinking about like having your own digital avatar and like can you like do
The digital twin.
yes,
Yeah.
right. And like are you gonna do your insurance and financial transactions in a digital world and like learn and get educated there first? Okay, I get it. These things come up, we try, we experiment, not everything sticks. But I can, with full confidence, say that if you look at the investment in this space in the technology and the rapid revolution, not only of the tech, but the rapid ability for organizations to gain results, those are the only data points I need to feel incredibly confident that this is not a hype cycle. And just to like back that up for everyone else who's like still maybe questioning it a little bit, I would say 96%, 96% of executives are betting on AI agents offering significant opportunity with their orgs in the next 3 years. That's beyond just the predictive and the generative. So that's one I would say watch where the money is flowing in these organizations. They're placing their bets. Two, I would say, look at all the futurists on the topic, any futurist in technology. And if you looked at what's been happening over the years, they were predicting things that would happen 10 years out as they imagined these AI capabilities, how they could evolve and what they can do. They started happening within 6 month timeframes. So the fact that a 10-year prediction is like shrinking and becoming real and like traceable back in these short periods, and all of this really started to happen in 2022, 2023, with OpenAI and when ChatGPT really exploded, you can tell that that pace is changing and the proof points are being infused into our life. Then I would say, look at what's happening in enterprise software. And I can really only speak to this best through the context of Salesforce because of where I am now. But I look at what happened when we introduced Agentforce, which was late in the fall, late October. So if you look at from any early adopter customers we had who went in on Agentforce when we released in the fall to where we are right now in May, that's a 6 month window. We have customers that deployed an enterprise solution. And in this one example, and they're all over publicly. I wouldn't share it if it wasn't safe to share publicly, but We had a customer, 1-800 accountants, and in a 6-month window, when they leveraged this technology, because they were also rolling into tax season and their call centers were being flooded with questions as people prepare to file, they use the AI agents, Agent Force, to help field the service inquiries. And in that short amount of time, they resolved 70% of all customer inquiries that came in. So I love stories like this, and there's tons of them, but they're interesting because of how quickly something brand new to the market was rolled out and delivered results. And that's why I'm like, this is not a hype cycle. Like, this is going to
Right.
continue to fuel itself.
It's a great story and great example, especially for the CPAs. Because I read recently, we're missing what 400, 500,000 CPAs in the U.S., and 75% of them are within sight of retirement. So I think that
Yeah.
this kind of enablement and capability is going to help us, kind of close the gap in some of these areas where we're going to see some severe shortages if we don't do something, right?
And we hear that a lot, that exact point in call center environments, because it is hard to get talent in. There's high turnover. That's long been the case. And so now what I'm seeing or have been seeing with customers is when they lose and they do actually go through some attrition on their call center side, they don't need to backfill anymore. And it's not, and the story isn't that they're over and burdening their employees. The fact is that they're raising their productivity and they're deflecting more calls. And so it's really interesting as we continue to evolve this and as the technology, like if you think of it as an engine, and each touch and each interaction, it's getting smarter and better and more precise. If this is where we are now, that's why I'm like, how can you not be excited about where this is going to go?
Well, so that's probably a good segue to. So we wanted to cover talent strategy, right? So as like we just talked about, AI isn't just changing how we work. It's also going to change who we hire and how we hire. So how should
Yeah.
insurance companies be rethinking their hiring criteria to stay competitive, kind of given with where we are and where we're going with AI?
Yeah. I mean, I I think you solve this in a number of ways, right? I think you're always going to have the groups within your organization and IT, right, who just deeply understand the technology. And that's not going to change. And you're going to continue to have people who are more specialized and who understand this technology and where it's going. So that's something that you're going to see get built up without doubt. But that's easy. That's the no-brainer part. So that's going to happen. What do you do with everyone else, right? And what's interesting to me now with with technology, and this has been happening for a while with, like low code enterprise solutions, you have to have more people that truly understand the mindset of how technology is enabler of business outcomes and business strategies. You don't need to have the full depth of understanding of all the tech and how it works, but you need to know how to use it in spirit of what you're trying to accomplish. And so I think what's interesting to me is that you have in a lot of insurance companies the people who understand the tech in depth, and then you have people who understand the business in depth. And it's really hard to align those groups, even in styles, ways of communication, how these teams work, they're we're not always good at working in cross-functional multidisciplinary teams. And at the end of the day, if the AI is being used in context of greater productivity and changing how you work, you have to be able to reimagine process and business. So you need all of that expertise in alignment with what capabilities are available now to let you do things differently. And so my advice would be is one, you need to get people, just the talent that you have or talent that you're looking to hire, people who are comfortable with doing things differently, people who are comfortable with experimentation, people who have spent time in different industries with different backgrounds in different contexts. Because what you're going to want is really great problem solving because the technology is holding the potential to redefine and reframe work. But that's the hardest part, actually redefining it, because we get used to just doing things how we always do it, you know? And so you need that, I believe, critical thinking skill, and you need people who are excited and hungry to learn about how the technology is changing things so they can find ways to apply it.
Yeah, so love that. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of other specific skills that you would. So in your kind of dinner party conversations, when you're talking to people that have children in high school and college,
Yeah.
what's your advice to them in terms of skill sets? I was listening to a podcast this week that was talking about how Bowling Green State University is introducing a
Mhm.
whole series of majors called AI plus X, and there's 6 or 7 of them:
Hmm.
AI plus computer science, AI plus design, AI plus human resources management. So
Yeah.
what's the advice for people with kids in high school and college?
Well, so even with the examples that you just told me, my brain processes that and says those are people looking to widen their purview on what's possible. And so like I boil that down very basically to intellectual curiosity. So like if I'm when I'm working like with my young children and they're not yet, they're, 10 and 8. But so yeah, I focus more on the fundamentals than the specifics. How am I infusing intellectual curiosity into their lives and the different ways in which you do that? I think anything you put on a resume can be told in the context of a perfect story, right? Of how you want to use it based on what's personal to you. And so I do think being open to the possibilities is a characteristic you're going to want. But you can cut this angle in so many different ways. You can say, I need people who are willing to think differently. I need people who are creative problem solvers because no longer, I mean, what if no longer do we need to rely so heavily on technical expertise because we can quickly funnel information and insights to our fingertips. So instead, I want creative problem solving. Maybe instead, I want more empathy and human relation, right? And contact to surround my superpower human of an enterprise that's fueling insights to my people. So that's why, like, for me, this actually is more about what skill sets do you want for your team and for your people to offer a competitive advantage? Know that on the intelligence side, accessing the information, getting the jobs done, moving work from point A to point B, that's going to be taken care of. So, what's going to make a difference? And I think it's going to come down to the connections that you make with your customers and then the thinking that your team's doing behind the scenes to create new services, new offerings, new differentiating factors. And so I would tell any young adult to start honing their life towards being able to be that creative thinker, that connector, that collaborator, because you're going to have access to the information. You're going to have the support to work more easily.
Yeah, so I think that's super helpful for how the insurance companies should be perhaps rethinking their new hire strategy and their hiring criteria and that kind of thing. But let's talk about the existing workforce, and we talked about this a bit already. But as we know, different people in the organization are going to have a different appetite for new things, new stuff, new ways of doing things.
Yeah.
So have you seen anything that works particularly effective in terms of companies bringing their existing workforce along the way and the in the AI journey?
Yes. And I would also say it really, I can empathize. It really resonates with me how challenging this can be for organizations and for leaders. I would say my perspective on this has changed completely since joining Salesforce and working in tech. Um, Here we have to be customer zero. We talk about that all the time. So many customers meet with us and want to understand, well, how are you doing it? Because we have to go first. We have to live our own values and our own tech. And so you've heard me share personal experiences with this before. Like sometimes it can feel bumpy because you're using something brand new, fresh out of the gate, and
Right.
it may not always meet all of your expectations of what you can imagine in your mind. But at the same time, it's an iterative process that evolves. And why I bring this up is because you have to get people living, using the technology.
Mm.
Number one goal, get them using it. Right. And so I think of why we're able to accomplish what we can here at Salesforce. Like we have two different types of things happen to us here. So like we'll roll out new technology and new capabilities, and some will be optional. They'll just be there and available for me to use. And because I see a colleague using it and I hear or witness them, in the early days, it was simple. It was like recording a meeting and like sending out summarized notes with like action to-do lists and watching that could be done without anyone touching it. Like in early days, it was simple stuff like that. But as you start to just see people around you picking up these tools and you notice, then you try. So we have stuff like that where it's totally optional, and that has created tremendous savings in our organization. They tallied up actually when they put Einstein in our Slack to help with like meetings and scheduling and just like, like the simple FAQ questions you want to go back and forth to like learn something more deeply. It saved over 50,000 hours combined in a 3 month time period. So it's cool to be at Salesforce because they'll like launch this stuff and then they'll measure it and then we'll see the impact and we're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's amazing. And then we have other times where it's not optional. And it is. It's the one way in which we're going to do things now, starting now, here at this point in time. And so at the end of the day, why is this happening? It's happening because they need us to adopt it. They need us to understand. And then, best of all, I really think we have a CEO that does this best. He leads the way by
Mm.
example. He talks all the time. Like, I get new use cases from him. And I'm like, and when that happens, I'm a little bit embarrassed because I'm
Right.
like, no, but like he was sharing the other day on a podcast on how he uses his Gemini on his phone if he has like a health question, and he's like, I like going back and forth on health related questions, and then I bring it to my doctor, and I'm like, I'm thinking about it more broadly. Well, do you know what? Ever since he said that, I do that regularly too. I have my husband doing it. And I mean, it's not even like the simple personal example. Like when we rolled out Agent Force, he, like, right out of the gate, he himself showed everyone how easy it was to build an agent. Well, when your CEO does that, next line leaders start doing that, employees start doing that, right? So there is a little bit of make it available, make sure everyone's using it, but like walk the walk, you know? So I do think that that's a big part, and that's key to bringing people along.
Yeah, I think that's just such a terrific example of because you and I, through the course of our careers, have been involved in a lot of change management and technology
Mhm.
adoption projects, and we know how important it is for leadership to really kind of role model that adoption. And I think the stuff Mark's doing is terrific and amazing. I agree. Um, I think maybe one other question in this area would be um, training and upskilling and that kind of thing in terms of helping make AI stick. Have you seen any specific strategies that seem to be working well? Is it should the training and the upskilling be kind of self-paced and on demand? Is it done better in a group setting? Is there perhaps maybe a center of excellence that stood up inside the company? Like what seems to work?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I'll go back to the number one thing that I think everyone should be prioritizing right now is just ensuring that there's access and adoption. You are going like when your chat GPT or whatever, you prefer to use comes out with its next set of capabilities, do you stop and watch a video on it first or do you just start using it?
Fair enough,
So
right?
like I just want to say because I have also heard the stories from so many insurers around how long and cumbersome the change management process can feel and then not knowing if it's effective. So uh, that part, that whole like adult enablement and how you get people to learn and adapt to new things, that is not my specialty. I can say that getting people to use and adopt it is the most important thing. And then I would also just share again, like what I see here at Salesforce, right? You need to have awareness. So, like, how you make videos, content, examples available. I mean, you have to widen the aperture of what people are thinking about and what's possible. And then based on different teams, you have different needs. Some people need to know how to speak about it very technically, and they have to get a lot of education and enablement on that. But your everyday business user isn't going to need to know that. They just need to know what value they're getting out of it. And what better way to know what value you're going to get out of it other than feel it?
Yeah,
But that's a whole nother hurdle of, yeah.
yeah, it's the enablement. I think it's important that people know what the rules are. So when ChatGPT was first announced, the first memo everybody got was from the attorney saying don't use this
Yeah.
thing until we figure it out.
Uh-huh.
So what are the rules? Another thing I've been thinking about is people love yeah, they want to get into it and start using it, but they also love the TikTok videos and that kind of thing. And so perhaps some sort of instead of having a brown bag lunch series, standing up some kind of a TikTok channel. You have to, I'm not sure if you can do this internally or not, Slack channel or something where you can share
Yeah.
videos of people
Video.
who are just kind of like making a 60-second video on how they're using AI, and then people can, at lunch kind of scroll through those things.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that a big part of it too. I remember kind of being here when all of the excitement and energy around AI started to build. And at the time, I was not on our industry advisors team, but I was on our innovation team.
Mm.
And so for all of us, it's like really important to always stay on top of it. And we would host team activities where we'd all get together and it would be like, okay, we're going to try preparing. I mean, now it sounds so simple, but I remember at the time it feeling different. But it was like, we're going to try preparing for this client meeting and doing all the steps like using AI. And it was like how we do research. And we would like time box these activities to really tight time frames to
Mm.
see how much depth we could get within each time frame. And when I think back and reflect on that, what did that accomplish? Well, it started get in some areas, it gave me more confidence in the tools. But then in other areas, for me, it really also differentiated where I need to invest my own personal time because I started to be able to see where my skill set could shine up against where the capabilities were making something easy. And that's that rebalance. That's that refiguring out what work looks like activity that we all have to go through.
So we're going to begin to wrap up here, and just we'll do that by kind of looking ahead into the future. So I'm going to ask you to put your get your crystal ball out, and defining the future in the context of AI is tough. Is that 6 months? Is that 12 months? Is that 24 months or whatever? But as you think ahead,
Yeah.
what does the future workforce in insurance look like? Like, how do humans and AI work side by side? Are we all going to have AI agents on our teams?
I mean, I I think hands down, yes. because we're also in this place where we can't afford not to. If you just go back and you reflect on the amount of manual work that is still a part of our everyday life and the amount of time we spend gathering information so we can do our jobs, the fact that that can now be so much easier, I know for a fact we're going to get to the point where it's side by side with us. Now, if I just say, okay, well, let's say 3, 5 year timeline. For me, what I'm rolling into how I think about the future is also acknowledging where everyone is right now. And what I have been seeing and what I think will continue to happen because insurance is in a regulated industry, they're risk averse by nature. I do not think we are going to throw caution to the wind and just, start running alongside the full pace of the technology. But the pressure to move faster and the anxiety that I see among executives in this space to be doing more is real and is palpable. And so, what I think we are going to see happen is we're going to see us go through methodically the waves of change here. And right now, like, I don't even think people may not have realized they're already on this journey. The big first step has been getting that customer data in order and accessible in your enterprise. And I think even that has changed how you're able to access customer data and connect it into the environments in which where you're working and doing the work. So right now, most customers are at this point where they've built, I would say, pieces of their customer profile, and so, because there's so much data, right? Like you could build that profile out as big and with as much breadth as you want, but they've built pieces out. And so what's going to happen is we're going to move through the waves of more predictive capabilities based on that data, more generative capabilities. I think we're going to experiment with the agentic use cases. That's what I'm seeing right now. Everyone's experimenting with it in the safest way possible, in the ways that provide the most efficiency gains in service centers for internal employees first, to help with all those, like, think about in the service center all the back office kind of requests and chasing that needs to happen in order to sometimes complete a customer request. So we're seeing that focus on internal first, empowering those internal employees. Same thing if you're thinking about empowering like an agent, even if that's an independent agent who's external, you're empowering them to actually get the information into the system, get it out in a usable way. And then you're going to see them open up some of those more like automated, dynamic, AI driven exchanges to customers. Like everyone's going to move through those waves at their own pace based on where they are right now. And so that's where I'm also kind of like, technology aside, speed of innovation aside, you need to get your data working for you.
Right.
And that's also an area where like people can really misstep, because if you wait for perfection, you're going to be behind because you
Mhm.
can't. It's like it's a massive problem. So you have to go forward with intentionality and focus of what can you do with what you have? What outcome are you trying to drive? How do you use that as your guide to prioritize where you focus and why? And that is unique to every organization.
That's right. Last question.
Yeah.
Any advice that you would give to leaders trying to build an AI ready workforce, but doing it in a way where you're not going to leave anyone behind?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Number one, it's just as hard for leaders as it is for everyone else to stay on top of this topic and how fast it's changing. So this is an area where you yourself, you have to be a sponge. It like literally just absorb as much as you can around who's doing what, what's happening, what are the possibilities, kind of going back to earlier in our conversation, opening your mind to the potential for the new applications and ways of working. You have to start there. Um, so I say, like, stay on top of it as best as you can. Two, don't underestimate the power of a cross-functional team, because many insurers are working with teammates and colleagues. They spend their whole careers in those companies, and that is phenomenal for the context and the relationships. There's so many positives, but you need cross functional, multidisciplinary thinking. You need people who have different perspectives because you're going to be reimagining work. And so that is incredibly critical. So I would say really push kind of like cross pollination of team and talent, and then lead by example, because that really does trickle down. You role modeling behavior has tremendous impact for everyone around you.
Colette, that was a great conversation. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no, this is fun. Like I said, I feel like I could go all day on this anytime. Thank
And
you for
I'd be
having me.
remiss if I didn't say go Maroons. I think Colette and I are both
Oh, yeah.
fellow University of Chicago graduates. So thanks again, Colette.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
That was an energizing and forward-looking conversation with Colette Bartosik. As we heard, the future of work and insurance is already here, and AI isn't replacing people. It's redefining the roles we play and the skills that matter most. From rethinking hiring criteria to building a culture of adoption, Colette reminded us that the workforce transformation is as important as the technology itself. If you enjoyed this episode, follow or subscribe to the JD Power AI and Insurance podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to share this one with your HR, operations, and innovation teams. It's a conversation worth having. Thanks for listening. I'm Michael Vermillion, and we'll see you next time.